Hello and welcome to Trek Tuesday. My name is John Trent. I'm the editor-in-chief at Bounding into Comics, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Jorge, the Armored Otter Arenas, and Donald Edmonds. Welcome to Trek Tuesday. It's good to see you.
Hey everyone.
Evening.
You've been practicing, Don. Congrats. That looks amazing. Do it again. Show the audience.
No Vulcans in the show though, so far.
There were references to Klingons. There were no Vulcans yet, but no. Say hey to the chat. I see Lopter, Demon King of Inferno, has joined us, and Mark Lasurth says hi, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. So let's just kind of are there any updates for Star Trek? So usually we'll start the show before we get into our Deep Space Nine discussion. We will start the show with any updates on what's actually happening in the current Star Trek world. I think they announced a release date for Discovery Season 3. What was that? I think Kurtzman did it. I think they did it on Kurtzman's Twitter. It wasn't even like on... Was it even on the CBS All Access Twitter?
No, it wasn't even on Under All Access Twitter. So that's the best part. I know we get another case of STDs October... I believe it's October 12th. Let me double check.
October
15th. So watch out, everyone. Stock up on your penicillin because STD is coming October 15th.
So I think that kind of gets us out of the way with that. I don't think there's really anything else.
Just Kurtzman talking crap.
Yeah,
that horrible panel that I watched.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, man. I couldn't even. I had to cut it into pieces. I know Anna tried to do it.
That panel was pre-recorded and it was very poorly edited as well. But yeah,
the quality was amazing though.
I don't think we need to really. We won't get into that. Let's just dive right into Deep Space Nine. So this episode was called Cueless, and basically it's an episodic episode, I guess.
Just like most Star Trek shows and around.
Yeah, like most Star Trek. And this one sees the crew. Are they the crew?
They're the crew. They're definitely the crew of the station, just or personnel if you want to use I guess land terms. But yeah, they're definitely the crew of the space station. And it's pretty cool because we get two special guests on the show. Right, John?
Yeah, so basically the crew of the show is they encounter I guess it's almost like a rescue mission, it seems like. So we don't really get a lot of background on how they encounter, but basically Dax and an unnamed Starfleet member have gone through the wormhole and they're on their way back, and I guess they pick up Vosh, who I guess Next Generation people will recognize her. If that's correct.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Next Gen.
And she's an archaeologist, and it's revealed through the episode that she has been off on a 2-year exploratory mission excursion with Q through the Gamma Quadrant, and she's collected a number of artifacts. And so there's two kind of plots throughout this episode. You get the one where she's kind of working with, I guess there's more than two because you have the whole Q plot too. So there's one where she's working with Quark and they're talking about selling her goods. There's another where there's an anomaly that had affected their shuttle, shut down the power, and now it's affecting the space station as well. And now, and there's obviously the Q. There's the Q subplot where it's is Q the one causing all of these issues? So it's a very interesting mystery, I would say. And then there's also a lot of good interpersonal stories. So that's kind of the gist of the episode. I think that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah, I think that's a really good summary. I mean, it continues on the Deep Space Nine tradition of essentially kind of bridging from Next Generation, bringing in characters into kind of propel the story forward as well as show the connections within the greater Star Trek universe. Because at the time they were concurrently being released. together. So seeing them bring back Vash as well as Q was pretty nice, especially this early into the series.
Yeah, so let's kind of just dive right in here. Let's say hello to some more folks who have been joining us. I see John Willis. Thank you for joining us, John Willis. And then Max Santiago is also saying hi. Thank you guys for joining us. So the beginning of the episode opens off with a little bit of a fun scene. I felt like, again, I think this just goes to the type of humor that Deep Space Nine can go with. It's not slapstick. It's very situational, comedic humor, and I thought this opening scene was kind of funny. So you have like Bashir spitting game to this Bajoran, and then in the background of like the bar, O'Brien is just sitting there like listening to everything, and like you can just see the eye roll in his body language. So I just thought that was just a nice way to get things going off on a little comedic note.
Heck yeah. It goes to show you that, Bashir is still trying to develop his game or lack thereof, right? They've been kind of joking about that here and there since the beginning of the series.
His game here was pretty good. I mean, he looked like he had almost sealed the deal, but Commander Sisko decided to chime in, and Dax interfered because they had to go rescue the spaceship that was losing power, and they were almost about to suffocate because I think they were losing oxygen.
Well, it's great to see that his thirst wasn't just focused on Dax this episode, so that's kind of cool.
Dude, he was in medical game. Medical.
Expand on that, Don. Come on.
I guess not. I guess Don doesn't want to expand on that.
All right. No, he's trying to impress the Bajoran girl. He wants to get up in there, and I think it's one of the, as you said, it's not slapstick, but it's a continuing set of gags that they use, especially with Bashir up till about mid part of the series, where there's a lot of hit or miss when it comes to the ladies.
Yeah, I think. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when he starts saying, when it's finally revealed that he's spitting medical knowledge at this lady, the utter, like, I want to die kind of vibe from O'Brien.
Oh yeah.
It's something that was experienced, right? We've had those friends where they've tried to impress the fairer sex using their whatever specialties they are, whether they're a doctor or what have you, and then we sit back and we're just like, oh, okay, keep laying it on thick there. This is not working, dude. You're killing me.
No, yeah, that was the gag. The gag was O'Brien's body language, and him just like his body language was literally an eye roll. And then at the end there was even a better payoff where you had Bashir get up and he was just like, Starfleet medical exam, it always gets them. and O'Brien is just like,
I'm not gonna lie, if I was O'Brien, I would have paid for Bashir to have like an hour in Quark special holiday. Be like, dude, cool down, get some of that evil out of your body and just get back to work because you're freaking me out, bro.
So at the end of the episode, that gag pays off a little bit too. There's another gag with Bashir, not the same, kind of a little bit, but we'll get to that when we get to the end here, though. So for this episode, it's very similar to the last one. There wasn't a lot of ethical or moral kind of thinking. I did think that there was a little bit of a debate with Odo and Quark, where Odo kind of lectures Quark on collecting material things, and he says, like, it doesn't make sense to me why you want to just keep collecting all of this stuff, and then when you die, your relatives pick it apart and then sell it off, and then the process repeats. That was kind of the only real philosophical discussion, I guess, in this episode. There wasn't really any deep stuff that we've seen in
enough, though, right? I mean, I think it's a good example of Star Trek being able to, write in some really good ideas and questions. Because Odo's absolutely right. When we bite it, you end up having people go through your stuff and kind of play the whole yard sale thing. Who's going to take what? if it's not going to be thrown out. So it's I wouldn't say subtle, but it's a very lightweight, adding a little bit of philosophical theme in an overall episode, which really didn't play too hard onto that.
Right. I wasn't trying to downplay that discussion.
No, I know
think
you weren't.
that's. Yeah, I think that's
No,
it's definitely a very interesting and deep discussion, but it was more of just a side conversation between Odo and Quark, and it also, I mean, I think they did a good job of kind of.
Well, it's felt
Quark
natural, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it's also Quark who's offering the other perspective, and then the way he offers it is a typical like Quark fashion. He's just like offering up all of these like everything he can kind of think of to kind of like entice Odo, and then he even like gets to the point where he's like a latinum laced bucket for you to sleep in, and then it like Odo is like, oh, and then like he's like, what am I thinking? And so Quark didn't have to like offer any kind of like philosophical argument to it. He just offered a very personal argument, and I thought that the way that was treated, like you said, was very organic, natural. It was very Quark-like to do that.
Exactly,
and the conversation. It made the point though. You had the differing viewpoints, and neither side was wrong or right.
Well, the best part is that it's, unlike other series who try to do this, whatever it is in sci-fi, it felt very natural coming from both Quark and Odo, right? They were having a conversation that really does touch home for, I guess, us humans, right? But in a very alien fashion, because they didn't quite grasp the concept. You saw Quark's reaction, of course, who doesn't want to bathe and go press Latinum, and Odo just not getting it because at this point his room's still a bucket. Right. Yeah. So and these are like the little details here and there and Deep Space Nine that gives it that rewatchability aspect that you can just go back and like pick that up again if you missed it.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. All right, so I guess I kind of just want to. I guess we're going to go through a little piece by piece, but I guess I want to just go back to where we kind of have been doing is just got to ask you guys, go around the horn, what your favorite parts of this episode were, and then we can kind of discuss
Can Don
as
go
the conversation
first?
goes. Yeah,
I'll go first before they start hammering next door. Okay, so my favorite is freaking Cisco telling Q that I'm not Picard. And he kind of, it's also kind of not my favorite, as I see Sid kind of fall out of, unless this is his character outside of uniform. He kind of takes on another kind of personality. He goes,
Cisco does?
What? Yeah.
Explain.
So right as Q changes the whole scenery, and it turns into a Fight Club kind of environment, Cisco just shouts out of nowhere, "What?" And I felt like that was kind of maybe a departure from how he is usually. Did you notice that?
I think to me that was just more of like he's not used to Q, and Q just literally changed the platform, and that was just a seemingly normal reaction that someone would have.
Well, I think I see where Don's coming from, though.
Different environment.
Based off the knowledge you have right now, Cisco, it kind of feels like it's a departure, right? Because he doesn't know what the heck's going on. He's never encountered something or someone like Q. So I kind of see where you're coming from, Don.
Okay.
I don't know.
So favorite and then favorite and not favorite, yes.
Bring it on.
Okay, yeah, I did like that part where he says, "I'm not Picard." He also, there's like before that, he also gave kind of like a one-liner too, where they believed that Q was the one who was making the jokes on him, and then Cisco's like, "I'm not laughing." So yeah,
that seems more like him.
Yeah, I like those one-liners, and then he just like floored Q in like 2 hits. In the boxing ring, and then Q was kind of taken aback from that. He wasn't expecting that, and then he says something like, you're not Picard, or he's like, you're not like Picard or something like that. And then Sisko responds, I'm not Picard. And I thought that was very like, they were just getting to the point that like Sisko is not Picard. This is a different commander. This is a different character who operates in a very different fashion. And they were making that abundantly clear in the way he deals with Q.
Exactly. I mean, I'm, and we have to kind of look at it from the perspective of the writers at that point in time. That was a pretty big shadow they were coming out of. Picard is the master of stoicism before it became emo recently. And you see someone like Sisko is a lot more direct, right? You see that. You see the. You see not as much stoicism in him. He tends to be more front facing with his emotions at times.
Yeah, so Barry On says Q observed that Sisko is much easier to provoke. It's presented as a shortcoming for Sisko. About that, yeah, I think it's presented as a. All right, Don, I need to mute you. You're like chewing on gum or something. Sorry.
Leave his gum chewing alone.
Yeah. But it's presented as a shortcoming in Q's mind. Q sees it as a shortcoming. I don't necessarily view it as you could see it as a shortcoming, but I think that it might just be towards Q, because Sisko has also shown, we've seen him in previous episodes already show patience under pressure and like problem solving and stuff like that. So I think just when he's dealing with someone like Q, he's easier to provoke. But then even then, the only time he actually was really provoked was when Q was punching him in the face. I don't know, and he still didn't react until after he was punched in the face like 5 or 10 times. So, and then he floored him.
Yeah, it makes sense. And plus, I think also it doesn't only give a contrast to Picard and Sisko, but gives you a really good idea that the captains, the commanders within the Federation are a rainbow of personalities. We kind of see a little bit of this with the captain of the Rutledge and TNG with his PTSD. Oh my gosh, I cannot remember the name of the episode now. Why did I mention it? But you know what I mean. Like, as we see different captains, we've seen them pretty vanilla in TNG for the most part, and now in Deep Space Nine, they're kind of exploring different leadership styles and the way different captains react.
Yeah, and I like that a lot, and they definitely make that point really clear in this episode. Like they are hitting you over the head with that point that I am not Picard. I also liked how we got to see a little bit more of kind of. They showed us this like Bajoran Swiss bank type deal that's like been operating on the station. I thought that was interesting. What did you guys think of that? I just thought that was just kind of like another element to the station that we hadn't seen before.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Maybe that's my least favorite part. Just going through the monotony of inputting a code, doing the retinal scan, and going through the items. And it's like, okay, we could skip all that, can't we?
I disagree. I 100% disagree, because I think it shows it shows you more of the station. It's not just the promenade. It's just not the op center. It's not just security. You get to see more of the characters who are living in the station, how they operate the daily lives of the station. I actually think that's like key to kind of like the world building of the show in just a little tiny small bit there. And you get an idea of kind of, it also shows Vash's collection of archaeological digs and what she's done with her time with Q.
I think it was because the way it was shot, it was all shot from this one angle, and it was just like you would see like a security cam person does their thing, and I'm like, okay, get a close up of the person doing the retinal scan, get a close up of the lady doing the Vash doing the security code, get a close up of items that he's looking at. I just didn't like, maybe the filming made it seem more boring to me.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. It definitely had that security camera type angle to it. I thought it was kind of humorous too a little bit, because the Bajoran was just so dry, and like the way Vash was like responding to him was just like, oh, you're you're just like, he was like very uptight, and that the little bit of the personality clash there. All right, Jorge, what was your favorite part of this episode?
Let's see. My favorite part, yeah, it's two parts. I couldn't make a decision. The first part, of course, was the conversation between Vash and O'Brien, where she was like, tell Picard, asking about how Picard is, and then commenting that she's going to, pay him a little bit of a visit. Because that's kind of a little bit of a running joke in TNG. For those who watched that series, Riker gave Picard a fertility statue, and the episode he went to Rise, and that's when he met with Vash. So I think that's kind of funny, right? Because she's gonna pay him a visit, so I guess she's got some pent up stuff to take care of. So I thought that was my fun. That to me was definitely a good one there. And then of course seeing Cisco slap the taste out of Q's mouth, right? And then the look on his face, right? John looked at him and was like, WTF, right? Like, what? I've never experienced that. And it makes it even funnier because Q charges himself as the arbiter of whether or not humanity's worthy of existence or not. And the fact that he didn't expect that reaction from a human shows that maybe he hasn't been interacting with them nowhere near enough.
Yeah, I think those are especially I really enjoyed the Cisco fight scene with Q as well. I think the other scene that you mentioned, that's definitely a TNG inside joke, or not inside joke is probably not the right word, but like
what, the Sherwood Forest?
Yeah, so you can appreciate that a little bit more. TNG. So for me, I haven't seen those episodes, so that's kind of just like just like a nod to that stuff. But I didn't think you needed to watch those. You just kind of knew that they were there, and then there was like a history.
You just by their conversation, you definitely know that there's a history between the two. And the coolest part about it is that it gives you, especially if you're curious about it, you can look up the episodes and watch them on their own, not really needing that much background, and enjoy Picard, Vash, and of course Q, and that series of interactions.
Yeah, I think the one that you meant, like Q's reaction to Cisco punching him in the face was definitely a highlight, because he like you said, he wasn't expecting that. He's already kind of been lecturing Cisco a little bit and like taunting him, and then he doesn't expect that, and then in order to like almost save his pride, that's when he says that, oh, you're more easily provoked or whatever. After he's already gotten his face, after he's already been punched in the face and been embarrassed.
And it's great because normally there's a mix of annoyance and fear when people deal with the Q, and the way Cisco is dealing with him is like, I just don't give a damn attitude, right? Because Cisco knows about Q. All the captains were briefed on him, the immense powers, and I think
he talks about that. He says that they had a briefing.
Yeah, and I'm sure Q's aware of this, and still that was part of the shock. Like, hey, dude, I can like snap you out of existence, and the fact that you have the stones to swing at me, hit and connect, that was kind of sweet to watch.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That wasn't my favorite part. I did enjoy that. I think my favorite part was the interaction with Quark and Vash. I'm a Quark fan. Yeah, is that how you say it, with his where she's like massaging his ears
erotically?
Erotically, and he's just like falling for it, and like she's just using it to get him to bring his price down, and then as soon as like she gets him down to like 22%, she's like gets up and is like escorting him out, and he's just like, oh man, you really do know how to work me. And it's just like someone who's able to like get the better of Quark, which we haven't really seen other than Odo a little bit. And so I just liked someone getting the upper hand on Quark and being able to manipulate him a little bit. And I just really liked the way their kind of relationship was built, and it was a friendship out of mutual interest, I would say, which I just really like the way that was written.
I mean, in Quark's defense, who doesn't like a good ear rub-a-lobe? right? Doesn't want to get that rubbed every so often. That's magnificent. So I'm with Cork on that.
Yeah. So I did. I really enjoyed that part. And then again, I like we mentioned earlier, I really liked Odo and Quark going at it a little bit, and Quark like accusing Odo of like spying on him, and Odo's just like, you should know by now, like nothing that you do is like secret. I know everything about you. And then Quark like goes on and is like, What were you this time? The table, the
Yeah,
chair,
that
and then
building
he's
up of
like,
The
paranoia.
wine bottle.
the wine bottle, and he's like, that's what you were. And like, I just thought that was just the way that line was delivered was great.
Oh, I gotta give it up to the prop designers for this, because when you notice the cups that they give out at the bar, they have this wide base, and it kind of goes along of, if anything should tip over, those will be the last things to tip over because of the way that they're shaped. And then the same with the wine bottle. It's not your traditional wine bottle. It has handles on it, and that kind of helps with grip if anything should shift or move around on the space station.
Well, it's also good if you're kind of trash too, right? You can get a better grip on the wine bottle and get that last few drops in. I would really love to see that design implemented here, because sometimes, you just lose a grip after a couple, bottles.
Dude, my dad had this coffee cup for the longest time, and I'm like, this is the weirdest looking coffee cup ever, but it was the most stable thing. And now that I'm watching this show, I realize, oh crap, he got that freaking coffee cup after seeing this show.
Obviously, because it's freaking amazing, right? I mean, you look at it and you're like, why not? Why isn't this like mass produced? Why isn't this more common?
Well, one of the things I noticed, speaking of the props, was Vash's like earring necklace.
Oh, the one that connected from.
Yeah, she had
Yeah.
it was an earring, and then it connected down to her necklace, like from here to here. I thought that was
Wasn't that all-
interesting.
Wasn't that all the rage in the '90s amongst the upper
It
Was it?
elite?
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I have no idea.
I just
But,
thought they were trying to be futuristic while being realistic.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I thought. I did too. I thought it was just a unique design.
Like,
Maybe
you
they
got,
started it.
that would be cool if they did. Someone screwed up on royalties that's for sure.
Um, as far as the other props though, like the artifacts that she had, I thought they were kind of simplistic, like the gold bronze necklace, like the jeweled dagger, and what was the other one?
Was it
It
the
was like just a
vase?
stone statue or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought those were just a little basic. They could have maybe had something. Maybe they were doing that on purpose because the orb or whatever was obviously stood out compared to those.
Yeah, they
others
didn't.
to
They
make
wanted
it
that to stand out.
seem much more impressive. That's why they went with kind of more basic designs, I guess.
Well, not only
Oh.
that, but you don't want to take the attention away from the orb, and probably the what's it called, the budget for the production just wasn't there, so they had to stop by
Right.
Spirit.
Oh yeah. All right, so we've kind of talked about what we enjoyed. What was your least favorite? I know Don kind of already jumped the gun on that with with the Swiss bank scene. Was there another one that you didn't like, Don? And folks in the chat, let us know what you really enjoyed and what you didn't like about this episode as well.
The whole tritium thing, that one was kind of like,
The techno babble.
yeah. And here's the thing. And then Q kind of said it too. Picard would have figured out what was going on, like right off the bat. These guys were kind of like footsing around for like half the episode. They didn't know what. Like I would have isolated what was happening. Okay, the same thing happened when you were on that little small shuttle, and now it's happening on the ship. That means you guys brought something into the ship, or you guys are responsible for something. So you guys need to go into a quarantine. You need to get scanned, and you need to find, and everything you brought on board needs to get scanned too.
You know what? You're right on the money, Don. Straight up, you're right on the money.
Yeah.
Normally, Star Trek is really good with with procedure and whatnot. In this episode, it was obvious that they wrote it the way they did, like the absent-mindedness, in order to drum up the story a bit. But you're totally right on the money on that, and it kind of takes away from it because and Q, like you said, Q said it. First thing you do is like the second something starts going wrong, what's new, right? You ask yourself, okay, what has changed? Isolate what has changed and go from there. And they didn't do any of that.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of, I mean, it, like I said, that kind of a little bit conflicts with what Cisco's problem solving that we'd seen in the past, where they didn't kind of do that. And I guess, I mean, they wanted to show that I think they wanted to show the difference between Picard and Cisco, but then it seems like they were also trying to emphasize, especially with the Q's dialogue, that maybe Picard is a better captain, just to kind of show that Cisco's not on his level yet.
Well, at the time, Cisco's still a commander.
Right.
He's not a captain, for one, and for two.
Wasn't he demoted? He was a captain before.
Oh, geez, I don't know. That's an excellent question. I don't believe he was. I believe when he was promoted to captain in the series, that was his first promotion to a captain. But I could be wrong. If anyone knows, say it on the chat, please.
Because I thought he might have been a captain when he was fighting the Borg.
No, I believe he was the first officer of that vessel.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I lost my train of thought. Something dark side. Something complete. Okay, there we go.
Phil says he was never demoted.
Yeah, never demoted. Okay, there we go. Thanks, Phil. Good to see you, man.
Yep, definitely good to see you.
I'm trying to remember now. Holy crap! But yeah, again, it shows the differences between the two characters, and we also have to understand Picard's been a captain much longer than Cisco's been a commander too. So you have that disparity in understanding, right, and experience, and it shows that another difference between TNG and Deep Space Nine is he has Cisco, who's relatively an officer who's not as experienced as someone like Jean-Luc Picard. That's why Cisco ended up with Deep Space Nine in the Fringe, and Picard is riding around in the flagship of the Federation.
Yes. All right. So Don told us what his worst aspect was, and that's a huge mistake, I think, in this show. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned that. That's good that you pointed that out. Like, holy crap! Like, when you think about it, that's just like, it almost kind of makes make Cisco and his entire team just look completely inept.
It was unnecessary. They could have done it better, but at the same time, I think this episode still ages really well. It's nowhere near as bad as it could have been.
No, for sure. What was your least favorite aspect about this episode? Okay.
Oh man, my least favorite aspect would probably have to be the back and forth they had at the beginning. Trying to figure out how Vosh ended up in the Gamma Quadrant without going through the wormhole. That's another whole investigatory thing that they should have done a better job in exploring. Because it's obvious if she didn't go through the wormhole, something extraordinary had to have happened for her to end up in the Gamma Quadrant, and that should have been a really big clue to something was amiss. So for me, that was my low point of the episode. It isn't terrible, but it's a little bothersome.
Yeah, I think that whole you had O'Brien who knew Vosh, and then to me, they made it seem like he knew that she went off with Q. Maybe that's not the right assumption there.
That's a great question. I don't remember if they made it clear let me see. Yeah, they did. Okay, so there was an episode midway in the series where she did go off with Q. Right, but that was because he promised her to help her explore more parts of the galaxy she hasn't seen. Similar offer that the Visitor gave to the kid who should have stayed shut up in Twitter, Wesley. Right, similar offer.
But O'Brien knew that, right? He would have known that she went off with Q, right?
I'm assuming to a point, to a degree, yeah, because Picard probably would have. Word would have spread because I think it was done in front of the other crew members on the Enterprise.
Right.
But I don't exactly remember. But yeah, they did establish back in TNG that she did go off as a Q.
Okay.
So the question I had about that is he called little people.
Say what?
Q
So,
called
yeah, say that again.
O'Brien. Q called
Oh yeah,
O'Brien part of the little people, and I'm like, what does
I think
that
he's
mean? Does
referring
that
that
mean
he's.
Irish
I thought.
day
leprechauns.
player?
I think he was referring to that he wasn't like the main part of the cast of TNG.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
That's
fair.
burning
kind of
it.
what I thought. I thought that he
No,
wasn't like an officer who was on the bridge or whatever.
he
Maybe.
was just
That's
a transporter helmsman, right?
yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
I
he was
think
just trying to
so.
belittle his job on TNG. Kind of. That's
You
what it
know,
felt like to
I
me.
never thought of it like that. Yeah, it does. It does sound like that now that I think about it,
That
especially
sounds a
with
little fourth wall breaking too. Just like,
yeah.
yeah, your writers never gave you a good part in the last series.
You're just standing around, scanning that transporter room for hours throughout the day. That's just all you were doing.
So O'Brien never actually met Q.
You know what? I don't believe he did.
Interesting.
I
But
can't
but
think of
but
the scene that they were
O'Brien
in
knew
together.
what Q looked like though. He identified him
Yes.
on the promenade. Like so he
Yeah,
knew what he looked like.
and I
He
think
was
that has
able
to
to
go with the
identify him.
briefing, the
Yeah.
Q
Yeah, the
briefing.
briefing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so John Willis is saying it was a bit contrived. Cisco knew about Q from reports by Picard. O'Brien sort of the same way.
Well, O'Brien was pretty tight with some of the bridge crew as well on the Enterprise, right? I think there was a scene where they did play poker, and they were at the wedding with him and Keiko. So word would have definitely spread, right? It would have been conversation while on a boat and sailing through the stars.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to rewatch that episode, Barry. Thank you. I'm going to rewatch Encounter at Farpoint because yeah, he could have seen him. Okay.
Okay. Um yeah, so that's kind of that's just weird to me that it definitely seemed like Q or O'Brien knew what Q looked like because he spotted him right away on the promenade and like went right to Cisco to report that, and then they never really like followed up as like, okay, they think just Q is causing it, but they should have. I don't know. They should have. Yeah, like what Don was saying, they should have definitely like figuring out what was going on with Vosh, especially after Q basically told them that it was
Yeah.
like Vosh had brought something. He basically told them like Vosh brought something on board you, like Nimrod's, like figure it out.
And that
Like
was very
I'm telling
generous
you
of
what
him
it is.
after the slap he got.
Yeah. Um. Uh. I don't know. I think that Don pointed that out. That was probably my least favorite part. Now I didn't. It's really hard to get over that because it was just because it also makes like Odo look incompetent too. Like he should have been
Yeah.
there. Like okay, like done like a security check. What are you bringing on board? Like because you think they would have some kind of like we know that
Protocol.
they have. We know they have protocol
Yeah.
for bringing people onto the station. The Cardassians talked about how they were like delayed like 2 hours or whatever because of Cisco.
Yeah.
So we know that there is like security protocol when you're bringing stuff on board, and they have like checkpoints and stuff like that. And it didn't look like there was anything like that because there was like a rescue mission. So all like security protocol was almost abandoned. So they kind of abandoned.
And it kind of shows
Starfleet
that
protocol there, too.
maybe Odo was a little too obsessed with his toying with Quark a bit, right? Maybe if he
Maybe
was
yeah.
paying attention, making sure his subordinates were actually following through on protocol, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. I was interested to know, like, so one of the other things that I was interested about was that Q mentioned the Delta Quadrant. I assume that is not something that's been explored in Star Trek. Oh, someone's doing some yard work. Oh, that's
Yeah, let me.
Yeah, we don't we the Delta Quadrant's spoken about, right, but not really seen. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, everyone in the audience, but when Q sent the Enterprise originally and smacked it, and they met the Borg, I believe that was the Delta Quadrant, but it was only really spoken about a little bit until Voyager. That's when we really started exploring the Delta Quadrant when
Okay.
Janeway and crew was out there, because that's where they were at.
Okay, so we do explore it in Voyager. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. It's mentioned. We see it a little bit. We know by now that this is the Delta Quadrant is where the Borg come from. That's implied heavily. It's not confirmed till Voyager, but that's just about it.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. And Any last? I don't. I mean, is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up on this one? I thought it was a pretty. I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a nice little adventure. I do. I mean, Don points out a great point that the writing could have been way better, as far as Cisco and team figuring out like what the actual problem was instead of having to do the super technobabble tritium stuff, which that was a little over the top.
I think honestly that you can definitely tell that the writers are struggling at that point. They're like, okay, we're just gonna throw some words together and turn it into a salad and call it a day.
And they even made a joke about it because Q like calls them out on it. It's like you're just talking technobabble. He says technobabble.
Yeah.
He actually says it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's again another example, as Don pointed out, that break into the fourth wall. That they're like, that's kind of like the writer saying, yeah, we were stuck, whatever, and we're gonna kind of play a joke on ourselves, at our own expenses.
Right. All right. Any last thoughts on this episode?
I'd love that they over the course of especially the first season that they keep bringing people back from the other series to actually have their own stories, right? I mean, there's a little bit of connection with TNG, with Q, and with Baj, but for the most part, this story was very self-contained, and they were able to kind of do their own thing. So that was my most enjoyable part. I know it's a little bit more difficult to do now with STD and Star Trek Emo Picard, of course, because it doesn't come off very well, but Deep Space Nine definitely did it very well.
I liked there's so John Willis is describing it as a guest star episode to help with the ratings.
Savage.
It's probably true. Fluffy and lighthearted. Yes, I think those are good adjectives to describe it. One of the things that I actually thought was interesting as well, here I'm looking at my notes, is that so in most of this episode, Q is kind of maligned by Starfleet. And he's almost like a pest to Vosh and treated as a pest. And he's very kind of annoying behavior. He's kind of always bugging her, and she's trying to get away from me. I'm done with you. But then at the end of the episode, Q actually confesses like why he's so bugging her. It's because he had never experienced wonder, and then through her, he experiences this wonder, and that's why he wants to keep like traveling with her. So he can continue to experience this wonder, this exploration. And I thought that was just a very poignant Star Trek moment, because it was really talking about like, it's what Star Trek is all about. It's about the wonder of exploration, right? And I really thought that just really hit home for me, that like all of his actions that he's doing throughout this episode is because he wants her to continue journeying with him so he can continue to experience this wonder of exploration.
That's weird that Q would choose her out of all people. Because I thought he liked toying with Picard.
Yeah, I mean, Q's kind of eclectic that way, though, right? I mean, you see how she was able to work on Quark, right? How she was able to out Quark. And Q obviously saw that because she kind of did that a little bit on the Enterprise as well when she was dealing with Picard. And he found that very intriguing. So that's part of the reason why she ended up going with Q, because they were both the sort of personalities that they kind of try to one-up you. They want to take advantage of you just for the lulz or just to see what happens. Him by far more than she.
Yeah, I felt they were kind of kindred spirits in that aspect. And
exactly. And John picked it up right there in the chat.
Yeah, so she toyed with Picard. Yeah, she was very similar to Q in how she operated to me. It seemed like she was trying to get away from that, though. But then at the end, you see that she, like, especially in her relation, like how she's dealing with Quark, you see that she's also like very Q-like. And then at the end, she basically takes Q up on his offer to go to, what was the planet called? Something 5, Tartarus 5 or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
So I thought that was just that's why I think he picked her, because he saw her as a kindred spirit.
Exactly, you're right on.
Because it didn't seem like they were romantically involved to me.
They were just platonic, and that's the thing. They just fed off each other. So they made it very clear that it wasn't that there was anything not platonic going on. They were just two as Don just put in the chat, they're both Pucks or Lokis feeding off one another and having a good old time.
Right, and Q makes that like abundantly clear when he lists off like all of her crimes, like all the different planets that she's done, and then she like counters with like, I remember when we went to this X planet and they called you like the god of lies or whatever, and we're like treating you like crap, and he's just like, they were being harsh, or he says they were saying it with love or something like that.
Yeah. Again, it was a lot of fun without having to be overly serious, except for that one aspect, but the whole station, losing power. Other than that, it was pretty fun.
Yeah. All right. So where would you guys kind of rate this episode in with what we've seen so far in Deep Space Nine? Because this was what, episode 6, I think.
I'd say it's below the last one, just because of that procedural breaking thing. For me,
the story, the writing, yeah.
I like what Don said a lot.
Okay. So I think it's like the worst episode.
If I had to give it a rating, I'll give it 3 tricorders out of 5 for sure. It could have been better, right? It felt a little rushed. It felt that they had to use too many outs in order to explain stuff to get the story through. They were having a hard time, and it was really obvious. So this is for me the lowest rated episode. It's not a terrible episode. I'd still watch this over STD any day, especially because I don't want to buy penicillin.
I don't know. I don't know. The moments with Quark and Vash I really like those. I like the Quark and Odo discussion. I liked there's a lot of really like good moments in this episode. But the overall plot, like Don mentioned, was kind of weak. But I don't know. It's definitely on the lower end, but I don't think it was the worst one. I think it might have. It's in the bottom 2 though, but I think it was a little bit better than the last episode.
That makes sense. I think we're all pretty much in agreement here. I mean, it is you want good 45 minutes just to pass.
I mean, I think I was the only one who described the last episode as the worst episode. I think you guys had higher.
Yeah, because for me it's because I remember this episode, so I knew it was coming.
Well, I'm not gonna set the bar low because I know there's more episodes and seasons to go. And,
wait, we gotta. I think it's this season. Yeah, there's gonna be a real fun one this season.
All right, well, I think that's it for Trek Tuesday today. Thank you guys all for joining us. I think this was a pretty good discussion. That's not the sign.
Oh,
there you go.
There you go. That should be your new profile pic, man.
So there's one more thing I did want to bring up. I saw this comment from John Willis here, and he was talking about
Kardashian Prime.
He was talking about the egg. So like the jewel actually turned out to be an egg for some kind of
a creature, yeah.
So this is what he says. He says these orbs were the ultimate MacGuffin. They never ever explained them or why the prophets chose that form. If they were a prophet. So I guess he's getting a little bit ahead of us there. That was like a prophet. I don't know. Maybe we'll just hold off on that.
It did kind of look like
a stingray
the box that they had. They always have this box thing with a thing inside of it that sparkles.
It looked like the prophet's jewel.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely looked like that. But then it was like an egg for like a stingray. Or a space stingray. That's what it looked like to me when it was flying out into space.
Yeah. Which was weird because it's like at that moment it burst. But here's another thing.
It hatched.
It burst. It hatched. Was the power inside of the station keeping it from hatching? Or was it draining power from the station so it could hatch? And then it was also taking the station closer to the wormhole.
Yeah. Well, it was draining the energy, but then it was also like shooting out like graviton energy or something like that, which I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. It's a strange function that why didn't it just hatch inside of the station, which would have been interesting. And it would have been an interesting way to write it. Like, this thing's about to, like, turn into something else. We need to get it out of here. And then they shoot it out, and it turns into that thing.
Well, I don't even think they knew that it was they had no idea that it was an egg until it showed up on the monitors they just knew it was like that was the cause of the ship being attacked and being drawn into the wormhole. And it's almost like obviously the egg was taking the ship into the wormhole. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, John Wells is saying it's a MacGuffin. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get answers to it. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. I think we had a great discussion. We do this every Tuesday. We start at 3 p.m. Eastern time. The next episode is just simply called Dax.
Woo!
And it looks like Dax might be in for some trouble because I think I read the description. It said she's being accused of murder in her old body. That's what it seemed like, I think. So that looks like it'll have really good. It seems like it'll have a really good discussion on law and order and justice.
And world building.
Definitely.
And yeah, maybe we'll get to see some of the court systems in on Deep Space Nine. Maybe.
We'll see if Dr. Bashir is able to get some Dax.
Yeah, we'll find out. All right. Thank you all very much for joining us. We, along with our Trek Tuesday, we have our Bounding Live, which is at Wednesday at 9 p.m. So that's tomorrow. That will be happening.
Join us.
And then we also have our Friday Anime Rewinds. And then also this Wednesday, I don't know if Don's going to join us, but I know Spencer and I are going to be reviewing Goblin Slayer Goblin's Crown. It's coming out. It's out today on Crunchyroll. You can stream it, and then we'll be reviewing it tomorrow, probably same time as today. We'll probably start at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I know Don is he might be joining us too. We'll see. But yeah, so we got a lot going on here with YouTube, and then we're also I'm going to get it up later today, since we did an interview with the director, the director of Curse, the Netflix show. She did the first 2 episodes. Her name escapes me right now. But we'll have that up. I actually have it already up in the background. I'm just tinkering with it a little bit. So look forward to that today. So that should be a lot of fun. All right. Thank you guys. And we will see you tomorrow or next week. Y'all have a great one. Bye.
Laters.
Bye.